Hey everybody, so this is gonna be a little review of this bike I built about 3 years ago, and as of a few days ago I've got over 5,000 miles on it. So thought I would do just a little overview of everything, my thoughts on the bike, and maybe some things I change or updates I may make to it in the future, and all kinds of other stuff, so stay tuned. So I've been using the bike pretty heavily for its intended purpose that I built it, and been commuting to work quite a bit. But let's go ahead and recap the original concept on it. You know, the first really framework I did on a bike was kind of modified this old fixed gear bike that I chopped and welded up a head tube and new dropouts. And anyway, basically I just had a welder was my only really tool at the time. So I had seen this video that Jody did from Welding Tips and Tricks, where he welded up a bike frame on a Sronghand welding table. So thought I may try to do something similar to that. So I built my own little welding table here. Cost me about $200 to build it, materials. So I basically bought a tube kit, came up with a life-size drawing kind of based off of some of my other bikes, cross bikes and such, and you know, basically just built them right there on the table. Made the table to weld other kinds of projects as well. But used one of these Harbor Freight tube notchers. For me, that it's just a cheap $34 tube notcher, I think is what I got it for. But I've used the little paper templates where you cut out the little pattern, tape it on the tube, and it shows you the angles and such to cut. But I found this little tube notcher was a little more repeatable for me. That basically the way I did it off the table was with the bottom bracket just setting on its side there, and all the tubes are based off the center line there of the bottom bracket. So I just made a series of blocks, I guess you could say, that hold the tubes, hold them straight as I can make everything. And that's basically what I did. And once the tubes are measured correctly and notched at the correct angles, everything basically just fits together. You clamp the tubes down, and it takes a little longer to set up to get everything just where you want it and aligned and measured than a standard jig. But you don't necessarily need an expensive jig if you're initially want to build a frame or some frames. If I'd say if you're going to get into higher production building, then you would definitely want a jig. But for a first timer just learning the process, this is a great way to get into it for pretty minimal cash. And the welders these days, Harbor Freight's got their Vulcan welders, you got your Everlast welders, and several others that are pretty reasonable. So just tacking the frame up here, and that's basically what the main triangle looked like once I got that going. Used the table kind of as an alignment table as well, just by clamping the bottom bracket shell there and flipping it over. And this is the frame after I had welded it together, and the main triangle anyways. And basically what I did was, it needed to be pulled to one side a millimeter or so, and so basically that's where I'd started to weld. As you weld something, as it cools, the metal's gonna contract and pull over to that side. So it's just kind of a little bit of a puzzle to get that thing to pull in the direction that you want and stay aligned and everything else. So as far as the main triangle here, after I got it welded, I didn't do any kind of cold setting or anything. It was pretty close. It was within a millimeter or so of being square all the way around, so I was okay with that. I had this little rectangular piece that I made to do the rear end. Basically the bottom bracket shell just sits up against that side, and then I had a piece of angle iron clamped to this side and just centered the dropouts there over the bottom bracket shell. And again, it's something that took a little longer to set up, but pretty rudimentary and effective. And so I got the frame to this point, and then from there it's just a matter of welding the seat stays on and such. So anyway, kind of fast forward to today. I've been, my family moved to Denver about 6 months ago, and one car family now. So basically I ride it every day to work. The company I work for, we have 3 different bike shops, so I kind of switch around to 2 different shops. So round trip, I'm usually averaging 22 to 38 miles per day, and a lot of it's just bike paths like this. And each way I go there's also the option of quite a few different gravel and dirt, single track, double track, and just gravel paths and things like that are pretty fun. So this is really the type of terrain that I designed to ride the bike on and such. So it's it's super fun riding through this. You can basically take mainly paved paths, but I always find I like to ride these the little options of the gravel when I can. So it's pretty fun. But throughout the whole 3 years I've ridden the bike pretty hard. A lot of nasty rainy and snowy conditions and such like that. Wrecked it a few times pretty hard, and I check it every so often, make sure it's not cracked anywhere, but so far it's holding up really well. And as far as the actual all the choices I made with the bike, I think 99% of everything I hit pretty well, surprisingly hit spot on. The tube diameters I feel like are pretty good. It's torsionally pretty rigid, not a lot of torsional flex, but the ride quality still has a nice steel ride quality, so it's not a super harsh ride. But maybe I've ridden quite a few of the Gucci high-end speed boggin frames, and some others, Mosaic, that are a lot lighter weight, but they just, I don't know, they don't have quite the torsional rigidity. When you're cornering, they have a lot of, it seems like the head tube kind of wanders from the seat tube somewhat there. So I don't know, I really like the way this bike rides as far as the stiffness aspect of that. So as far as kind of my setup, sometimes I'll ride knobby tires if it's going to be a snowy, icy day. Take the fenders off, because that ice and snow and stuff will build up in the fenders. So, but otherwise, most of the time I'll just ride 28C AW3 tires with fenders and such. There is, during the summer, it seems like it rains pretty frequently in the afternoons here, but it's never been really too big of an issue. But there's some sections of pretty good downhills, and the bike's really stable. I really am happy with the option of doing the disc brake setup, and I like the post mount setup here, where it's going between the seat and chainstay there. So I don't know, I think it looks really clean this way. It's a little harder to initially set the caliper up there, because it's a little more difficult to get to the bolts there that bolt it down. But this is one area, the little fender mount hole there, I drilled it kind of crooked, so that's something that bugs me a little bit. And then, other than the clearance issues, this is a 28C tire with a fender, so it's pretty close tolerance there. I may in the future put a little dimple in it there for a little extra clearance. And I don't know, that's that. And the crank clearance are about the big issues I've had there. But as far as changes on the bike that I've made since I've had it, I broke the original shifter, so it's got my 11-speed shifter that I had on one of my it's a SRAM Force 22 from one of my old bikes, and kind of a cobbled together cassette. It's a 10-speed free hub that on the current wheels. So that's some changes I may make in the future, or maybe an upgraded 11-speed wheel. I think I may switch out the fork to a through axle design as well. Upgrade that wheel both wheels at the same time, something a little lighter maybe. I may do a Dynasys cassette. It's a little bigger range there, and then I could do a 1-by system up front. That's just something I'm kicking around there. I could do the Dynasys on this existing hub, but I don't know. That's something maybe off in the future. Yeah, other than the the crank clearance there, I may dimple that there somewhat as well. But yeah, that's I don't know. Overall, I'm really happy with it. The bike's holding up well, and yeah, so that's it's gonna do it. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Please leave any comments. I generally always reply. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, and thanks for watching.